Hello again, and welcome to another edition of Nick's Impromptu Reviews. My name is Nick, and today I'm going to review Dungeons & Dragons Lords of Waterdeep by none other than Wizards of the Coast. Now, don't let the Dungeons & Dragons name fool you. This is not your typical Dungeons & Dragons dungeon crawl or RPG. It's far from it. In fact, this is actually a Euro-style game with victory points, resource management, a little bit of area control. So if you're looking for if you're a Dungeons & Dragons fan looking for an RPG or a dungeon crawl or something like that, this is not it, okay? So it suits from 1 to 5 players. Basically, rather than you being the characters or controlling the characters and actually going into the dungeon and fighting monsters, getting loot, getting experience, you actually take part as the lord or the man behind the scenes who is sending these characters on these quests. Okay, so it's sort of like a broader standpoint. You're like the guy behind the scenes sending these guys on the missions to do these quests for you. So you're not the actual adventurers, you're the guy behind the scenes. And basically it turns out it's a Euro-style resource management, area control type of game that it comes out with. So it may seem like it's maybe it's been slapped on onto the name, the Dungeons & Dragons name, just simply been slapped on a Euro-style game, but I don't know. Well, let's see. Does this all work in the Dungeons & Dragons universe? Let's find out.
Okay, so here's a setup for a 2-player game. Each player, they have their own mat, and I'll explain that later. And then you have this really nice board, and I must say that this board is really good. It's organized. There's a place for a stack of cards and a place for your discard pile. I got to give props to Wizards of the Coast. They really did a good job on this board, and it kind of looks like an old European map. Okay, and it's basically the town of Waterdeep, and they have these places. Okay, and also one more thing, their box here. The actual box. Yeah, I know it's just a box, but let me tell you something. It is well organized. Okay, and not only that, in the instructions, it tells you how to organize your parts. Now, a lot of games, they have these nice little trays, but sometimes it's a pain to figure out which goes where. Well, in this game, the instructions actually tell you where to put your components. So I think that was a nice touch by Wizards of the Coast. Well, anyway, let's get back to the game. All right, so let's look at what we have here. Okay, so let's look at the player mats. Okay, so these player mats, okay, you're going to represent one of the factions or one of the guilds. Okay, in this case is the Silver Star. Okay, you're going to have 4. In a 2-player game, you're going to have 4 agents. And in a 5-player game, I think you have only 2 agents. So the more players, the less agents you're going to have. And those are important. Those are the agents, the ones that are going to do your do the work for you. You're going to assign them to do stuff. Okay. And on the sides of your playmat, you'll have your active quests, your completed plot quests, and then you have a discard pile of completed quests, which you'll add up later. And also, you're going to have your Lord of Waterdeep card, your Lord card. Okay, and I'll explain that right now. Okay, so before the game starts, you're going to be assigned secretly assigned one of 11 Lord cards, and these basically tell you how you're going to play your game. Okay, and they're dealt out randomly, and you'll have to read what kind of bonuses they give you, and that's pretty much going to dictate the game, and you keep it secret until the end of the game. For instance, this Caledorn Castellanter. Okay, if you have this lord, at the end of the game, you score 4 bonus victory points for each Skullduggery quest and each Warfare quest you complete. Okay, so basically you're going to be going after Skullduggery and Warfare quests. And this one right here, Nindel Jalbuck, at the end of the game, you get 4 for every Piety quest and Skullduggery quest. So you're going to be aiming for that. This one, yeah, you get 4 points for every Arcana quest and Piety quest. Okay, and they're all like different. There's 11 of them. Like this one, you'll score 6 for each building you control. So this one will want to buy buildings, and so on. You'll have all these different lords that do different things. And yes, it dictates how you're going to play your game. Okay, so once your lord card has been handed to you, you put it face down in front of you, so only you know what your quest or what your long-term goal is going to be. All right, and then you gotta assign a first player. Now the first player will start out with 4 gold. They'll start with the least gold because there is a pretty good advantage for being the first player, as I'll show you later. And then the next player is going to have 1 gold higher than the other, and then so on. Okay, so the first player will get to go first. And what you do on your turn, you're going to take one of your, and you go one at a time, you're going to take one of your, these are called your agents, they kind of look like meeples, and you're going to place them in one of these spaces on the board. Okay, now these spaces on the board do various things. Okay, they give you sources, they give you, you can buy buildings, you can get quests and try to complete quests, lots of things. And then more spaces being added when you're buying buildings. Yeah, you can buy a building, you can go to Waterdeep Harder to get an intrigue card, and there's various things to do, and I'll try to touch all of them. Okay, now one of the basic spaces are like these source spaces, okay? So for instance, the Field of Triumph, it gives you 2 orange cubes, and those orange cubes are basically, they're these things, and they represent warriors, okay? Now remember in the intro I told you how you're like the Lord and you're the resource management. Well, the resource management are like the Dungeons & Dragons characters that you're putting on quests or that you're hiring, okay? So if you go ahead and put an agent right here, you'll get 2 warriors, and you just put it in your pool somewhere, okay? And right here, the purple ones are wizards. You can go there to get 1 wizard. Right here, the white cubes are the clerics. And right here, the black, you can get 2 black cubes, and those are rogues, okay? And those are the 4 classes: wizards, rogues, fighters, and clerics. Okay, so what do you need those sources for? Well, for one, you'll need to complete quests. So if you go to one of these spots, you can get a quest, okay? They all give you a quest. Like this spot will give you a quest and 2 gold. This spot will give you a quest and an intrigue card, which I'll explain later. And this one, it lets you, if you don't like any of the quests, you can reset the quest. You can wipe those out, discard those, and put 4 new ones, okay? And what these quests are, these are probably the heart of the game right here, okay? What you'll need to do, you grab one of these, and when you complete the quest, you get a reward, and usually it's victory points, okay? So, for this quest right here, okay, this is a skullduggery quest, so if your lord wants to kind of specialize it, you get bonuses for that, you may want to do that. Okay, so this is called Fence Goods for the Duke of Darkness, okay? So you're sending these guys on quests. So what do you have to send? You have to send 1 warrior, 3 rogue, and you got to pay 4 gold, all right? And once you have those sources, you can complete a quest. Now you can only complete 1 quest per turn, but once you complete it, you immediately get the reward, which here is 6 points, okay? And whenever you take an, okay, now this is a plot quest, okay? Now plot quests, they have like a long-term effect, okay? And I'll explain that later. So when you, and so it says, whenever you take an action that provides a rogue, you can also take 2 gold from the supply. So if this gives you 2 rogues, right? So if you, from now on, after you complete this quest, you put it right here under your completed plot quest, because plot quests have like a long-term effect, and the long-term effect is if you get a rogue, you get 2 gold, okay? So that's there to remind you. So if this player completes that quest by turning in those sources, now they'll be able to get a bonus 2 gold for getting a rogue, okay? And yeah, those are plot quests. Some are not plot quests, they just give you a straight up reward, okay? So for instance, right here, if you complete this one, which requires 1 warrior, 3 rogue, and 4 gold, you'll get 10 straight victory points and an intrigue card, okay? But it's not a plot quest, so when you complete this, you just put it face down right here, okay? So that's pretty much it. And when you complete a quest, you go ahead and you add it to your pile. So let's say we completed that quest right there, so yellow would get 6 points, okay? So that's how you keep track of scores. Okay, so let's look at another type. Let's look at the intrigue, the space that give you intrigue cards. Okay, now one of the quest spaces that gives you, like this one right here, if you place one of your agents over here, okay, you get a quest and an intrigue card. Now these intrigue cards are very interactive, okay? They're basically the screw you cards, all right? You use them to, give you bonus or really mess with other people. It's basically underhand tactics, okay? For instance, this one you choose a quest type, all right? Arcana, Commerce, Piety, Skullduggery, or Warfare, and then you draw and reveal one of those a quest until you reveal a card of the chosen type, and then you keep that quest and discard the rest. All right, so you play this, and you'll be able to grab one of those, okay, of one of the chosen types, okay. And there are other stuff that really, some kind of mess with you. Some give mandatory quests to others, and mandatory quests are a real pain if you give it to others. Yeah, they give you a small reward, but you cannot complete quests until you give a mandatory quest. Okay, so intrigue cards are pretty They're I like to call them the screw you cards. All right, and you can go to Waterdeep Harbor, and I'll explain Waterdeep Harbor in a second. That's a very popular place. You can go to Waterdeep Harbor and get a intrigue token, and there's also something else that I'll explain later. And right here, you get an intrigue card and a quest. And right here, you become the first player, which is the castle, and you get an intrigue card. Okay, so those are the three spaces that give you intrigue cards. Okay, now another space where you can go is called the Builder's Hall. Okay, and what you can do, you can send one of your agents to the Builder's Hall, and you can buy one of those buildings at the cost. Okay, so that number in the upper left, that is the cost of the building. So let's see how these work. Okay, so what happens, let's say I want to buy this Skullway. Okay, so I pay the 4 gold, all right, and then I put it over here, and let's say I'm the yellow player, so I will get, let me see, all right, I'll get a yellow player token, put it right here to designate that it's mine. Okay, so I own that building. All right, so what does that do? It provides another space for the board. Okay, so for instance, when an agent goes there, they will get a warrior, a rogue, and 2 gold. Okay, the person who goes there does that. Also, the owner gets a cut. Also, the owner is going to get either a warrior or a rogue. So it's pretty good to have a building, and it's kind of like Le Havre. If you ever play that game Le Havre, where if you buy a building and people use it, you'll get some sort of payment, I guess. Okay, and there are other buildings as well. Now, at the end of the turn, or at the end of the round, once all the buildings that are staying there, they get 1 gem on them. Okay, so kind of like if you ever played Puerto Rico, it's kind of like that. And so the buildings that people don't want to get, they'll start accumulating these gems, and they are each victory point. So it kind of entices you to buy buildings that no one wants. Okay, so that's another good touch. That's another little bit from another Euro game like Puerto Rico or Small World. Okay, so let me see. And now we have Aurora's Realm Shop. That's that space. All you do is just send an agent here, and you get 4 gold. And I think that's like the only place on the standard board that gives you money. All right, now let me explain Waterdeep Harbor. Okay, first of all, each player is gonna put an agent 1 at a time. Okay, not 2 at a time, not all of them at a time, 1 at a time. Okay. Now, once everyone has placed, let's just put this right here. Now, once everyone has placed an agent, and remember, you cannot place an agent that is already occupied unless it has more than 1 space. Okay, like for instance, the Cliff Watch Inn has 3 spaces, the Waterdeep Harbor has 3 spaces, and I think everything else has just 1 space. Okay, so remember, so that's why it's important to be the first player sometimes, because you'll be able to pick you get the first choice of which spot you want to get, because once you get it, no one else can get it. Now, Waterdeep's a little different. Okay, once everybody puts their agent somewhere, then at the end of the round, or once that happens, we go to Waterdeep Harbor. Now, these 2 can be reassigned somewhere else. So basically, Waterdeep Harbor is kind of like almost like a free action, because at the end of the turn, you get to take these and you can go somewhere else and do there. So let's say you go there, I'll get the first player and I'll get an intrigue card, and you go in order. and then the next player goes right here, gets 4 gold or whatever. Okay, so Waterdeep here is a little different. It's sort of like a free move. All right, so all right, that's pretty much it. Okay, you go to spaces, get what you want, and you get victory points by doing quests or other things, or entry cards or buildings. And I believe sources give you victory points. I gotta look that up. I haven't played this in a while. But yeah, the bottom line is victory points, just like in any Euro game. And whoever has the most victory points at the end of the game wins.
Okay, so that was a very brief and quick rundown of Lords of Waterdeep. There is a lot of stuff going on, but like in any other Euro game, it comes down to victory points. And like a lot of Euro games, there's several ways to get it. You can do quests, and quests are probably the main thing you do. You can, get buildings, and to get more sources and stuff. But yeah, the bottom line is victory points. Okay, and there are a lot of different ways, and there's a lot of things about this game that sort of remind me of other Euro games. It kind of reminds me of Agricola, with the different spaces you can do to either get sources or get whatever. Kind of reminds me of Puerto Rico with the buildings. Kind of reminds me of Small World with the Small World in Puerto Rico, where the buildings that are not that appealing to people, they'll put like a victory point on it. It takes a bunch of parts from other Euro games, and to me, I think it works pretty well in here. The theme, I think it works. In my opinion, I believe it works. A lot of people may say that, well, you can change the theme to, I don't know, shipping will be the same. I don't know, whatever. But the bottom line, it works for me. It works for me anyway. So, yeah, so it's a good Euro style game. Several different ways to get victory points. And it's really, really deep, yet simple.
All right, this game really surprised me. I know it did get good reviews in internet or wherever, but there were also some people who were saying that, oh, it's really just a Euro game with the Dungeons and Dragons name slapped onto it. And even those people who like Euro games, they say that this is maybe too simple, it's not that great. But I kind of disagree with all that. This is actually a good game, and it actually works. Okay, whether the D&D name got slapped on here as an afterthought or not, in a Euro game, it all works pretty well together, surprisingly. Yes, it does have, it does have aspects of the game that copy it from other Euro games, but to me, they take some of the good parts of a lot of Euro games like Agricola, Puerto Rico, even like Small World, all those area control, the Hav, all those area control type. It takes little parts of those games and it puts it together quite nicely. And yeah, I gotta admit, the characters, like the character class, like fighters, wizards, and clerics. I mean, yeah, they are they're technically just resources, but it does work. Okay, you're basically the guy you're the boss behind the scenes, sending these guys on different missions, and they're coming to you to send, and you're sending them on the missions. And of course, you don't see what goes on in those quests. They either succeed or they don't succeed. But isn't that what you're doing? If you're like the boss behind the behind the screen, so to speak. But yeah, it works really well. I do like this game, and it really surprised me. It's pretty deep. It's very easy. I don't know if it's a gateway game, but I can see if you're like a Dungeons and Dragons or an RPG player, and then you pick up this game, and then you start playing, and wait a minute, this is not what I expected. This can probably hook D&D players and RPGers to Euro games. Okay, so this would be a good gateway game for gamers, like RPG players who are not into Euro games. So this could be a good hook for them, and maybe that's what the whole idea was to sort of get the Dungeons and Dragons players to play Euro games. But as a straight up Euro game, I think it holds well on its own. Yeah, one of the big surprises of the year for me. I really didn't expect to like this. I thought it was just a typical Euro game that with the Dungeons and Dragons moniker stuck on it. But no, it works well. The theme works well. I really was impressed and surprised. And I don't even have the expansion. And from what I've heard, the expansion to this, it kicks this game up to another level. Yeah, so yeah, definitely one of the bigger surprises of the year for me. And so with that, I will give Dungeons & Dragons Lords of Waterdeep a 9 out of 10. Yes, I really like this. It takes the best aspects of a lot of my favorite Euro games, puts it all together, and it comes out in a nice D&D, with a nice D&D background, and it works really well. Good game. Solid. Highly recommended. All right. Well, that is it. Until next time, I will see you later. Bye-bye.